Renzo, have you heard of this thing called AI?
AI, let me think. Is it some kind of new diet trend?
Okay, come on, I see it
All
in your
right, yeah,
face.
yeah. AI, of course I've heard about
Everybody has
artificial
at this
intelligence.
point, right?
If you haven't at this point, you're in trouble.
You live under a rock.
Yes.
So,
That is not today's expression, by the way, living with your head under a rock.
no, but actually, it's ser una espada de doble filo, which is,
A double-edged sword.
and this is just a Spanish phrase, the companion podcast of News in Slow Spanish. In News in Slow Spanish, we give you the news series expressions in Spanish. But here, in Just a Spanish Phrase, we pick one of those idiomatic expressions and we talk about the origins and the uses, everything in English.
It's basically just a chance for us to really share our obsession with idioms and how fascinating they are, where they come from, how they're used. And then if you want to hear those idioms used in Spanish and practice your language skills in the meantime, that's when you go to News and Slow Spanish. But back to today's phrase, a double-edged sword, una espada de doble filo. What makes you think of that phrase today, Maria?
Well, because in Just a Spanish Phrase, we also share of our obsession with current events.
Yes.
And I need to tell you about something that happened to me this weekend.
Okay.
And it's in the context of the sentence. So AI, I'm usually an early adopter of new technologies. I've been experimenting with ChatGPT and with all the AI, image creators, Suno who creates music, everything from at least the last 3 years. I've been using them and experimenting with them. So I don't consider myself somebody who's afraid of new technologies until.
Oh, okay. So this is what happened.
So this weekend was a family gathering with my brother-in-law, who's Italian, and he was so excited because he loves music, all kinds of music, and he brought to us this obscure Italian singer from the 70s who was censored back in her day. Is a beautiful woman. Imagine like style like Raffaella Carrà, which is another amazing Italian singer.
Okay.
But this woman, she was censored in the 70s and just resurfaced lately. And the music was amazing. The cover of the album was amazing. And the whole story of there was an entire avant-garde movement of music that was unknown until now.
But why was she censored?
Because the lyrics were very, very, very filthy.
Oh.
So, and especially for those times.
Okay, yeah, right. I understand.
So we were all like laughing, oh my God, how can anybody write lyrics like that in the 70s? No wonder why she was censored, but it was so brave of her. So I sent the song to many friends of mine. And the next day, one of my friends say, oh yeah, the music is amazing. Too bad it's AI. And I was like, what? Turns out, and I found this woman on Spotify. My brother-in-law knew all the story about how she resurfaced. So the entire thing, the cover of the album, the name of the singer, the voice, the lyrics, the music, and the whole story behind it, everything AI generated.
Everything?
Everything.
So this woman didn't even exist?
No.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I was going to say, you were talking about early adoption, and I was going to comment that AI has been advancing at breakneck speeds. It's amazing how believable a lot of the content that's generated by AI has become. Whereas a few years ago, it was very, very easy to tell when something, whether it was images or videos or music in this case, and of course text, there was always like this hints that made it very obvious. And nowadays, the it's getting harder and harder to tell. But this, you saw this artist and their song in legitimate channels like Spotify.
I saw it on legitimate channels. We bonded, my whole family bonded around that song. So it created a memory. But that's the thing.
Fake.
It was fake. So I felt cheated the next day. I felt the need to clarify to all the friends I had sent the song, hey guys, never mind, this is AI. So this woman in the 70s did not write like this avant-garde crazy music. So that made me think, wow, it's a double-edged sword.
AI.
Yes,
Yes.
because yes, you can find vaccines, you can find, but we are not only reinventing the future, we are reinventing the past. And I think that's what worries me.
That is a scary thought. Yes, yes, exactly. If you start using this tool, and I was going to say, like every new technology, there is great potential for good and for bad, of course, and it depends on how it's used. But so this is a really fascinating example because it's in the field of art, right, of music, but you're completely fabricating a history that wasn't there.
Exactly. So imagine what you can fabricate an event, a historic event that never happened.
Mm.
You can fabricate a revolution that never happened. You can fabricate a new stories current that is not happening.
Yeah. And you know what they say, that if you tell a lie enough times, it starts to become the truth.
Exactly. And the issue here, that made me think of, I don't know if you remember the era of infomercials,
Of
for
course.
example, or even infomercials on the New York Times. I remember at some point when I think it was Netflix who launched Orange is the New Black, the New York Times had an entire 2 pages featuring real research about jails, women jails, but it was sponsored by Orange is the New Black. So they
Oh.
did have a disclaimer that says this is a real information piece, but who paid for this information piece is whoever is promoting Orange is the New Black.
Mm. So back to the expression of a double-edged sword.
Mhm.
AI, artificial intelligence, is una espada de doble filo because on the one hand, it allows you to create very
Great
great
things.
things, like great content, for example, maybe as a tool to enhance an artist's ability to create. That is a positive, right? But in this case, where it's practically fraud, I don't want to say that it's definitely fraud or not, but it does seem like it's disingenuous.
It does, but I have a friend who did like it, and it's good because it's good music. So
Oh, we're getting into a philosophical debate.
it is. So that's why I think AI in particular is a double-edged sword that is very, very afilada. How do you say
Very
that?
sharp.
Very sharp.
Well, yes, the more powerful the tool, the more impact it can have, whether it's good or bad. So let's put a pin in that and go to the phrase and look at the history, the origins of espada de doble filo. Okay, so of course we have swords. Everybody knows what a sword is. It's a knife but bigger.
Yeah,
Okay,
pretty much.
but swords come in different shapes and different designs. Now, the significance of two sharp edges, a double-edged sword, espada de doble filo, is that when you create a sword with two sharp edges, it can be dangerous. It can cut on the downstroke and the upswing. It can cut in whichever direction you swing it. Now, in war, when this weapon was developed, this made a lot of sense for close combat, especially when a lot of soldiers were meeting other big groups of soldiers on the battlefield and there wasn't a lot of space to maneuver. So this was developed, and it also became a weapon that could be learned quickly. It didn't require a lot of skill. Think of a sword with only one sharpened edge. It requires a lot more skill and technique to use it effectively. But sharp edges on both sides, it meant that soldiers could train quickly and be very deadly and effective on the battlefield. However, if you have two sharp edges and you're trained quickly to use something, it also means that there's higher risk of hurting yourself. So that's the meaning of double-edged sword. When do we see this first? Well, it's been around for a long time. As long as these swords have been around, there's examples of double-edged swords in ancient China. The gladius famously was the double-edged sword that the Roman soldiers, the centurions, would use. And in the Bible, we see for the first time this use of the metaphor of the double-edged sword, where they talk about the word of God being a double-edged sword because within it you can find your salvation or your damnation, depending on how you apply that wisdom to your life.
Wow, is the AI the new word of God?
Oh, now we're getting into another philosophical debate. But yes, not that it's the word of God, but rather that it's a very appropriate use of the phrase because you have a tool that can cut both ways,
Yeah,
right?
that can be very good, provide solace like religion, but also provide wars like religion.
That can help people become more productive in the work, but it can also make some jobs obsolete.
For example. So, unfortunately, we're running out of time, but if you want to continue this discussion, visit our website, newsinslowspanish.com, and we have this place called Rooms where we have live conversation about all sorts of topics. And I'm definitely going to add some rooms to talk about AI because I need to process.
Yeah, we need to find out, is AI created art really art? What happens if you enjoy it? Is it worth creating it?
Is the fact that we're having this conversation already a good thing?
It can be a double-edged sword, for sure.
It is.
Well, thank you so much for listening to Just a Spanish Phrase. And like Maria said, we'll wait for you at newsandslowspanish.com to continue this conversation.
Adios.